Hello and welcome to Instant Insights, a strategic intelligence podcast. At Global Data Strategic Intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors. I'm Archie Sewell, and today I'll be talking to Robert Pritchard, one of our Global Data's principal analysts in the technology team. Today we'll be discussing small medium businesses, or SMBs, in the UK. Hi Rob, how are you today?
I am very well. Sun is shining and it's a lovely day, and this is a great, interesting subject.
It is, and yeah, you're quite right, it is a lovely day outside. So you recently published a report on the importance of small business market for telecom services providers in the UK. What's the context for that?
Context is there's been a sort of global trend recently amongst telecom service providers and the broader tech industry, I guess, as well, to refocus their efforts on the small, medium business market, partly because of the pressures on the multinational corporation, the MNC market, where margins are tight. They're very complex solutions. They involve a lot of people time and people cost money. So that's always a disadvantage. And often they have no margin. They're sold as marquee customers as opposed to necessarily commercially beneficial customers. Top of that, you've got the sort of ongoing deglobalization and restructuring of supply chains. So it's become a less attractive market, or even though it seems still the most sexy, so to speak, market. Equally, the public sector market has been under pressure. We're going to have to look at what's happening today with Rachel Reeves in the Commons. And also the corporate market is steady, but it's highly competitive. So there's been a market shift globally towards people realizing that the small, medium business market, and there's something like 400 million of them globally, is the attractive market.
So what sort of evidence do you actually have for that this is taking place?
Well, certainly in briefings with telco CEOs, the tone has shifted towards focusing on the small business market. BT in particular, if you look at the UK, Kirby's been talking about it being a UK company, and they're still trying to figure out what to do globally. So very much refocusing on the SMB market. You look at Vodafone, they have this wonderful thing called V-Hub, which is designed to attract and recruit small businesses. It's very interesting marketing and innovation they've come up with. So if you look further afield, the US, you've got people like Verizon, who recently launched a Gen AI assistant service for SMBs. Orange Business have launched a live intelligence product, which is also available to SMBs. Deutsche Telekom through T Systems has de-emphasized the MNC market altogether and is now targeting medium-sized businesses in the DACH region, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So it's a global phenomenon.
So who are the main players in the SMB market?
Well, in the UK, you have the big three, I guess you could call them, which is BT, Vodafone, Virgin Media, O2. There are, however, lots and lots and lots of smaller competitors, often with sort of specialist skills or specialist propositions which go to market. There are a bunch of value-added resellers, managed services providers. Both those latter two are growing in importance and significance. And then also you've sort of got this new dynamic with, okay, 5G is getting rolled out, but more noticeably at the moment, you've got the rollout of full fiber by the likes of City Fiber. So you have this sort of convergence also going on of telecoms and IT, because in the old day, people used to buy a phone line, and now they buy connectivity in order to be able to do things in the cloud or go to market or use apps. So the broader market is moving forward, and there's a very diverse and very welcome range of people to choose from. If anything, there are too many service providers and it can get confusing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's quite a complex market.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's crazy out there. And the other key area that must not be forgotten about is the third party channels. So they're folks who resell the services of the network providers. It's worth over 1 billion a year in terms of the overall UK B2B market. The advantage that they offer and they have is that they exist to win customer business. If they don't do it, they don't exist. So obviously they're very focused on what customers' requirements are, and they often act as a sort of like a virtual member of the customer's IT, ICT team. So helping them try and work out how you can use technology to improve business processes and just sort of identify business solutions which are enabled by technology. Whereas previously it was always people selling technology and the customer would have to work the business side out for themselves. But the problem is the complexity that entails. And first of all, you've got 5.5 million SMBs in the UK. So that is a vast, complex, and really difficult market to understand. So in order to succeed with given the amount of competition, the service providers, whether they have networks or resell, need to understand their customers. They need to be smart about their segmentation. Traditionally, they've done it around the number of employees, but that's a really dumb, old-fashioned sort of 20th century way of doing it. And that's how they did it because they could buy databases of customer names with numbers. But it's more about behavior and what motivates customer to buy a service, how they're going to use it. And then service providers need to be a lot smarter about understanding how customers use technology, why they use it. So think about what the actual end business results are rather than just think about bandwidth or availability of mobile. You know, people don't knock on your door and say, I need more bandwidth. They knock on your door and say, I want to have better relationships with my customers. I want to be able to my team more productive. I want to have better ways of paying my bills or working with partners. So the market is so competitive and so laser focused now from everybody that without smart segmentation, using customer insight from data you've gathered, then you're going to struggle because everyone's out there chasing the same people. So the smarter ones will win.
So it sounds like there's a lot of changes that have happened quite recently. Like, how are the established players dealing with this? There's so many competitors now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're all going through, like many businesses as a whole, are going through this sort of digital transformation process, trying to work out how to automate things. And in a completely different world, it's the shift has gone from physical infrastructure, though that obviously is still vital, towards software-enabled services. So, we're all using Zoom or Teams or whatever. That wouldn't have happened 10 years, 15 years ago. In terms of that, they're trying to get their propositions right. So there is an emphasis increasingly on going to market with this can help your business doing X, Y, Z. And so there's that level of going to market. But equally within the sort of going to market from the operational perspective, so rather than the marketing perspective, there's trying to optimize channels. So you want to make the most of your addressable market, but you need to focus on where you're best. So you need to work out how you split between direct B2B sales to using third-party channels, so having a strong channel partnership program. And there's been a lot of effort put into that recently across the service providers in the UK to try and boost their channel sales. And then there's the simple digital channel where you and I, or whatever, if we want to change our phone deal with our service provider, we go online and order things or change things or do our billing that way. So it's getting the balance right between those three channels to market, direct, indirect, and digital is key to optimize the addressable market and also optimize the cost of going to market.
Right. Is there actually money to be made, given that the current pressures on businesses with new taxes and skills shortages going on?
Thankfully, yes, which is good news. The UK SMB population is at best flat at the moment. It's shrank a bit last year. It's facing its struggles with the business rates and taxes going up and employer national insurance contributions going up. So there are real constraints coming in from the outside world, let alone technology. But equally, that flips the other way around. So things are getting more difficult. People are getting more expensive to employ. So if you can actually make your people more productive using tools, tech tools, then that's how you do it. And what's been noticeable over the last few years is where a lot of the new technologies, the smart stuff, whether it's unified communications or access to cloud or cybersecurity, any of these things, they were adopted initially usually by the multinationals and then corporates and public sector. And then it sort of trickled down to the small business market. What's happened is that process has accelerated. So small businesses are becoming more and more like their larger enterprise counterparts on almost a daily basis. So they will be thinking about cybersecurity. They will be using Zoom and Teams and so on and so forth. So the market is changed in that they are buying beyond connectivity, as I call it. So they're looking for these applications. And these are value-added applications. They mean higher revenues, usually better margins, and importantly, they also make customers more sticky, so more loyal, and that means the customer lifetime value is higher. So each customer now in the SMB segment is worth more, even if the population is flat. So there is growth in the market.
So what's next then?
Well, My feeling is that now everyone's sort of realised that SMB is really exciting, and look, they're doing what corporates used to, and we can make more money, and there's lots of them. I think the next thing is, which is far more difficult, is the SOHO markets. That's a small office, home office market. This basically has, again, a really vast base and very, very diverse sort of background. It could be anything from someone just doing eBay stuff from home on top of their normal day job, so sort of a sideline, a hustle, or it could be a cleaner or a plumber, or there's someone who's does their own stuff, and they still need comms. And nowadays, they will also need to be thinking about possibly a website or fixed to mobile conversions. So they can always be got hold of. They might need to submit their taxes online. So, there's a whole load of things there that they're going to be swept up in the same trend that came from corporates to SMBs. The problem being, of course, that SOHOs are so disparate, and also they sort of straddle the consumer and the business markets, which is not a problem for them as such, but it is a problem for service providers because they tend to be organized around business customers and consumers. So, having run a small business myself, I had a mixture of business services and consumer services, depending which was offering the best value for money and what was absolutely necessary. So, it's a really complex, but again, a really big and important market. And there's this blurring going on between consumer and business at that layer there. So, it's incredibly complex, but again, all of the business, the more likely they are to rely on their supplier because it needs to work. Now, if it does work, they have no reason to change unless it's exorbitantly expensive or whatever. So they tend to be loyal. They produce good monthly recurring revenues. Those revenues tend to have good margins on them as well. So, it's a commercial imperative over time to try and address that market, but it's going to be a damn hard headache to work out how to do it.
Right. Well, thank you for that. It was super in depth and really insightful. I'll probably have to listen back to this episode myself.
Me too. I can't wait. So, no, that's great, Archie. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for those instant insights. And from us in Strategic Intelligence, see you next time.
Cheerio, folks.